My name is Bill Gierie, and I'm in practice in Wilmington, North Carolina. It's interesting. I had very crooked teeth and was not able to be treated as an 11 or 12-year-old. And so I got braces when I was 15 and really wanted to correct my, severe crowding. And I think if I'd been younger, it might not have had as much of an impact on me. But I'd always been interested in healthcare, and the process was so transformative for me. I thought, what a great way to make a living! What a great profession to commit to. And I honestly feel like I haven't worked a day in my life because I love what I do. It's a great way to have a profession that every day we do positive things for our patients, and every day, every visit we see the patients, they get better. And there's, almost nothing like that in all of healthcare. I mean, it's really great for the mental state of the doctor. I mean, if you're an oncologist or a periodontist, the best you can hope for is, remission or, halt the disease. And we get to improve people every day. And that's really uplifting to me. I think, especially in 2024, I mean, people are very focused on appearance, and with all the social media and people posting selfies, having a confident smile is, it has the potential to really impact a person's mood, and their overall happiness level. So I think we contribute in a meaningful way. Uh, I can
That's
write
what you're studying.
I can write backwards with my left hand and forwards with my right hand at the same time.
Oh, really? How did you develop that ability?
I don't know. It just was goofing around, and I'm left-handed, so a lot of left-handed people are ambidextrous. So I can also use a handpiece right-handed or left-handed. Taking out second premolars with Invisalign and no fixed appliances is, I think, the hardest traditional orthodontic case we see. Obviously, impacted canines and those cases can be difficult, but that one I find particularly challenging. Well, when I started, everything was analog. We had a paper charts. We had an appointment book that you wrote in pencil. We had alginate and plaster models, and the digital revolution in orthodontics has really changed the face of orthodontics. And and I would never go back to our analog ways of doing things. It's much more efficient. It's a better patient experience, and I can do a better job in diagnostic terms with having all the digital information so quickly. Um, I'm really curious to see how AI penetrates the health space, and dentistry and orthodontics in particular, in terms of not only treatment planning, but assessing treatment outcomes, virtual care with patients. I think that will be our next revolution. And I'm really curious to, hopefully I'll practice, for close to 10 more years and get to see it. Uh, oh gosh, let me think back. I think it was Bob Keim approached me, our former editor, and knew I was doing a lot with clear aligners and Invisalign, and was on their advisory boards and speaking for them and teaching the residents at UNC. So I think he brought me on specifically to do the aligner corner section and to review clear aligner articles. And that's something that's hard to say no to, because I do think the JCO is valuable, to our readers in terms of, getting, more current information. I mean, you can't always do a randomized clinical trial that takes 5 years. And the problem with Invisalign is, about the time you publish that randomized clinical trial that takes 5 years, they've changed the protocols and the attachments and the smart force features, significantly in that time frame. So it's almost obsolete before it ever gets published. So the JCO, I think, gets things out in a more timely manner. And, I really have enjoyed being a reader, and I've enjoyed being an editor as well. Well, I was actually writing an intro to an article this morning because the deadline was tomorrow. And so I'm sure, um, you know, uh, they'll be happy that I got it in a day early because I'm usually getting it in a day or two late. So it's, reading various articles, sometimes case studies, sometimes studies, and, trying to, and I would say I probably have a fairly high rejection rate because I really want the quality of what goes into our journal to be high. And, some of what I read is outstanding. Some of it could use a little more work, and some of it is just not suitable for our publication. So, a lot of art reading of articles and critiquing them, reviewing them, offering suggestions if it's just, maybe they didn't think of something in their analysis. But it's I also enjoyed, reading these articles before they're published, because it really is, cutting edge stuff sometimes. Again, I think it's a very important journal in our orthodontic world, because of how the information is disseminated and because it's a clinical journal. The AJODO is a great journal, and those are probably two that I read every month, the JCO and the AJO. But not everyone is interested in fibroblast contraction. And, some of the clinical tips and management tips that are published in the JCO, I think are very useful to the everyday reader. Again, I think it's a resource for best practices, clinical tips and tricks from people that are, proficient in various areas of practice. So it's just it's a great resource, and it's not a terribly long journal, so you can peruse it and read an article or two in between patients, and so I think it's a very valuable resource for the everyday practitioner. I tend, in the early days of social media and sort of little like focus groups on various platforms, I would read, some of the things that were being posted, and I would probably a half a dozen times I started to type long responses to, things that I thought were inaccurate or, maybe misleading about aligner treatment or anything, and just deleted them. And I've really just decided I just don't want to play in that space, because a lot of times the rhetoric gets very vitriolic, and you get people just not being nice to each other because you've got the sort of protection of the keyboard and you're not face to face. I mean, things that you would never say to someone's face at a meeting, people say all the time on social media. So I really just don't enjoy that. So I kind of stay away from it. So I think, it has a place, but the journal, I think, is because it's peer reviewed, is a much more reliable source of information than someone's opinion on social media who may or may not know what they're talking about. Yeah, I mean, there are sort of informational things like in the sort of the practice surveys that I find interesting to see what sort of trends are happening in private practice. Certainly, there are numerous tips and tricks. Really too many to just name them, that come up in the journal. And that's why I find it valuable. Is I want someone to show me something I haven't seen before. And that happens frequently in the JCO. Again, I think it's timely information that's presented in a easy to read format, and you've got the digital version of it. That I used to have large collections of the journals, taking up lots of space on my shelves, and I do still peruse the written copy, but I don't have to hang on to them forever anymore because they're evergreen in the digital format. And it's just so much easier to search it. And, I sort of like most aspects of my life to be digital. I still have a few analog things that I hang on to just because, either nostalgia or, the aesthetic value of it. But, having, journal information in a digital format is fantastic. And so I'm really glad the JCO has that available. Oh, I cold started a practice 26 years ago, and I've made every mistake in practice management that you can possibly make. So, I'm trying with my associate to teach him some of the practice management and business things early on in his career. So his learning curve is shorter. I wish I'd known some of those business management and practice management things early on. I would say that we tend to get in our own way, and I'm guilty of doing things like bringing patients back for multiple retainer check visits that probably weren't really necessary and really not of any value to the patient. And at least in our town, the traffic has gotten so terrible that you know we need to let our ego go to the side a little bit and really do what's best for the patient in terms of their time management, and try to cut out some of these unnecessary appointments, or offer them virtually. And that's to really try to meet them where they are and what time they have, because everyone is just overscheduled, kids, parents. So if we can do things to still give them the same level of care and service, but in the most time efficient manner, I think that is great advice. I would say, learn from as many different sources as you can. You will find some things useful, and you should, adopt those. You will also find some things that are not useful and discard them. But once you've mastered the rules, then it's okay to break them or bend them, but not until then. So, I would, sort of follow the tried and true methods in your early years. And I remember advice that Dr. Profit gave me that I now, or sort of rules of thumb that he gave us that I now violate on a, not daily basis, but quite frequently, because times change and techniques change and materials change. And so, what was true, 25 years ago is not true today. And one of the things I say to the first year residents right when they come in is 50% of everything I'm teaching you is wrong. I just don't know which half it is. Okay. I would say that, we strive to be effective and efficient in the clinic. But if you find something, or you're thinking of changing to something, and it's either more effective or more efficient than what you've been doing, but it's a worse patient experience, then you shouldn't do it, even if it's more effective or efficient. Those three things have to come together in order for us to make a change in a clinical procedure. So I'll give you an example. It's effective and efficient to put Invisalign attachments on at the first visit. It's not always a great patient experience. And so we're willing to sacrifice a little bit of efficiency to give the patient a better experience in most circumstances.